Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Marco Dure Show. It's Tuesday, November 25th, 2025. Thank you for tuning in today's show to hear all of the relevant, groundbreaking news here in America and around the world, the only show where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Please don't forget to follow the show wherever you might follow shows, download them. Please share with whoever needs to hear the truth so we can make understanding knowledge the norm again in this country. Hope everyone's ready for the best hour radio has to offer, uncensored and ready to go. Let's start things off on Tuesday by talking about this article I have from Reuters on how the Department of Government Efficiency, or you may know it as DOGE, is now actually dead. Wasn't that one of the campaign promises we were talked about? Remember we were told all this, DOGE, we're going to get, fix government efficiency, everything's going to work out just fine, we're going to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. We heard all that. We loved it. We want that. We need that, actually. But listen, this DOGE is dead. I mean, let's just talk about the elephant in the room. DOGE is dead. They estimated some $214 billion was said to be cut when Elon Musk was running it. Right? Right idea. We need to cut government spending. Cut through all this crap. Get rid of all the fat and trim it off. Get rid of it. And again, the number one thing should be foreign aid. Why are we still giving foreign aid away when we're now $38.3 trillion in debt? And we just hit just for reference, by the way, we just hit $38 trillion on October 21st of this year. All that interest is being compiled every time. And look how fast it's growing, folks, despite supposedly these cuts that have been made. Now, I saw on Fox News yesterday they were discussing, I think it was on Jesse Waters' primetime. They were saying, well, DOGE is, disbanded. It's not in effect anymore. But what's going to happen, we're going to give it to the departments themselves. They're going to go through and cut all the waste, fraud, and abuse. Really? Where the hell is that happening? Who's going to be in charge of it then? Now, it made sense. Elon Musk, a tech guy, would come in and say, okay, let's look at this program. Let's look at that program. Let's scan through all this. Let's see what we're using. What don't we need? Now, Musk was, to me at the time at least, in sync with what President Trump's policies were. And at the beginning, it felt like we were really getting what we wanted. But now we have this raising concerns of, obviously, government spending, fiscal stability, and, of course, the deteriorating of our dollar. Well, that's a big problem. I mean, look how fast this national debt is growing, and it's going to continue to grow out of control. It's so much that the interest alone is going to bring us over $1 trillion a year. That's beyond even spending 1 cent. Look at this. The average debt per citizen now is somewhere around $114,000. It's unbelievable. How is this sustainable, by the way? How much longer can we go on with this debt bubble that we find ourselves in until it bursts? And, of course, we end up defaulting to all of our lenders. One of them is mainly China. How much longer can we spend like this? Where are representatives that should be, again, fiscally conservative in this situation? Who spends like this, by the way? Nobody. You'd go bankrupt. Your business would be out of commission. There'd be a close sign on the front door. Or a going out of business soon sign, for God's sakes. What bank would give you more and more money when you're not paying your bills? Can I go down to a Bank of America or Wells Fargo or whatever bank and say, yeah, you know what, I really can't pay you back, but I need to borrow a little bit more every single time. Raise the debt ceiling, borrow some more. Who would do that? No bank would do that. They'd say, listen, you've defaulted on all of your loans. Why are we giving you more and more money? Your debt is just continuing to rise with us. Only our Federal Reserve would print out cash ad nauseum for anything, of course, like wars, foreign aid, all these ridiculous social programs in which we find ourselves in now. And it's totally destroying us. Destroying our dollar, by and large, of course, because again, you're putting money out of thin air. More dollars chasing the same amount of goods, folks. What does that do? Devalues the currency, rises the prices. There you go. And that's why we're in the situation we're in. But isn't it funny? They always have money for wars, for foreign aid, right on the spot. Not for your cities, of course, that are going to hell in a handbasket, of course. But here we go. It says U.S. President Donald Trump and his Department of Government Efficiency has disbanded with 8 months left to its mandate, ending an initiative launched with fanfare as the symbol of Trump's pledge to slash the government size, but which critics say delivered few measurable savings. Well, I guess so. No longer exists, folks. It's null and void. How is this, how is this going to work? How much more do we continue on? What do we get? $40 trillion debt? $50 trillion debt? You're never going to pay that debt down. And again, at some point, you got to pay the piper, folks. That's just the way life is. Yep, saying it's no longer a centralized entity. Well, yeah, it's gone. Where is it? Why is it gone, by the way? Why aren't we using this to get rid of all this waste, fraud, abuse? What don't they want us to see that they're engaged in? Is it because Elon Musk differs in foreign affairs? Is it domestic affairs? What is it that they're not trying to show us now? Because at first they were happy to show us everything. And all the ridiculousness that we spend year after year after year, foreign aid, this and that. All this BS that we don't need. And again, it all falls on your pocketbook. Again, look at what I just told you. Every single American carries if we're averaging it out, I'm not saying you have $114,000 worth of debt, but if we're putting it all on the citizen, that's what you owe the government. Yeah, good luck paying all that back, by the way. It's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. Again, we're not given a clear answer as to, again, why the chainsaw for bureaucracy, which Musk once described it, is now gone. Look, it says DOGE claimed to have slashed tens of billions of dollars in expenditures, but it was impossible for the outside financial experts to verify that because the unit did not provide detailed public accounting of its work. So did we even cut any of this? Or do we just identify this? That's the big question here, of course. Trump administration officials have not openly said DOGE no longer exists. Yeah, one of them did, actually. Even after Musk's public feud with Trump back in May. Since then, Musk has left Washington. Yep, there we go. So I guess that's gone. We have no more DOGE, folks. No, just more government spending, more useless spending. Every single time our country, in previous generations, of course, back when we had a functioning government, of course, any single time there was things like unemployment, this and that, all they did was cut government spending, and it equaled everything out. That's everything. Go look back in 1921, when Warren G. Harding took office. Unemployment rate was somewhere around 6%. The Fed had just been instituted back in 1913, taking effect in 1914. He came into office after Woodrow Wilson, the clown, one of the worst presidents of all time, who gave us the income tax, World War I, Federal Reserve, all this nonsense. Really, this collectivization of government, too, by the way. He's the one that started it. Of course, FDR mastered it. But he's the one that kind of started this, that government needs to do everything, government this, government that. And again, he was a communist. That's really what it comes down to. Woodrow Wilson. Well, Woodrow Wilson leaves office, 6% unemployment rate. Warren G. Harding comes in, the Republican. And what does he do? Does he say, well, you need a program for all the unemployed people to get out? No. He cuts government spending. That's all he did. Cut government spending. What happens? Well, the next year was cut in half, 3%. And then the following year was down to 2%. So they didn't do anything. All they did was cut government spending. And you saw that unemployment rate just in half, just keeps getting cut. And we know how fiscally responsible Calvin Coolidge was. Same thing. It's only when we get people, again, this was Herbert Hoover's main mistake back in 1929. They panic and they say, we need to do this, X, Y, and we need tariffs. We need they issued the Smoot-Hawley tariffs. And what was that? A big disaster, which probably was the greater cause for the Great Depression than the crashing of the stock market back in 1929. But again, everyone's telling them, don't do this. Too much government influence. What they do? They made things worse. You know, they had Hoovervilles, this and that. And of course, FDR comes in. Nothing changed. All these government programs. Nothing stops the Great Depression. Well, what did? Well, of course, it was the war. Yep, you take 12 million men out of work, ship them overseas. Yeah, you stopped that greatly. And that's what got us out of it, of course. And, of course, Europe was in ruins, of course. And we became one of the biggest manufacturers and producers. And we had to ship all of our goods elsewhere. We had a lot to do. And that's why the end of the 1940s, 50s, we were booming. But again, all this government influence, cut spending. It's not a hard concept. But then getting a politician that'll do that is a completely other thing. Oh, by the way, yesterday I wanted to go over this article with you from Fox News. It says the CDC quietly changes vaccine and autism stance after years of controversy. This came out last week, but I didn't get a chance to go over it yesterday with you. And it says here, this is interesting. It says the Center for Disease Creation and Production, I changed their name actually, has updated its website with a new stance on the potential link between vaccines and autism. Interesting. Yeah, I thought everyone that had any complaints about this or any criticism about this, they were supposed to be conspiracy theorists or kooks or, lying. That's what they love to tell us. But now here's the new wording that the CDC site actually now states. They say the claim vaccines do not cause autism is not an evidence-based claim because studies have not ruled out the possibility that infant vaccines cause autism. It also adds the studies supporting a link have never been ignored by health authorities. This is shocking to me. And again, I think what RFK Jr. is doing is probably one of the strongest links Trump has in the government that's actually following through on campaign promises. But I want you to think about that right now. We've been told time and time again, vaccines do not cause autism, they're safe, they're effective. You can listen to Fauci about the COVID shot. That has zero safety testing on it. That was pushed through by emergency use authorization. Right? Everything is safe and effective. Oh, yeah. Okay. Forget that all the animals in the study died. And you had, 2 months of safety testing? 0 long-term testing? But everything was safe and effective, and everything was not, of course, as I have mentioned to you time and time again. But again, this is a stance that they've come up with time and time again. They've told us vaccines don't cause this. There's something else. It's genetics, right? They keep just giving you other examples. It's not the vaccines, even though as the vaccine schedule starts to change in the early 1990s, you see the autism rate begin to grow exponentially. And of course, we have the creation of more ultra-processed foods in the 1990s, of course. They're being pushed on people. But there's a problem with all this. And the big problem, of course, is there the safety testing that can prove this? That's what you should be asking yourself. So we have the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services now launching a comprehensive assessment of the potential cause of autism. So now they're actually looking into this. RFK Jr. came out. NHI Director Jay Bhattacharya came out. Same thing. They said, we're going to look into this. We're going to figure this out once and for all. And again, these investigations are on plausible biologic mechanisms and potential causal links. That's what they start saying. So the header, vaccines do not cause autism, remains on the page, but it's followed by an asterisk indicating that it was not removed because of a prior agreement rather than because the evidence supports it. I mean, this is unbelievable. So I did a little bit of sleuthing here. And again, it's important to understand all this, folks, because if you don't understand something, you are doomed to make stupid decisions, and we don't want that, of course. But here we go. It says here that finally the CDC, right, is beginning to acknowledge the truth about the condition that affects millions, disavow the bold, long-running lie that vaccines do not cause autism. This is what Mary Holland, Esquire, the president of the CEO of the Child's Health Defense in New Jersey, told Fox News Digital. And she goes on to say, no studies have ever proved this irresponsible claim. On the contrary, many studies point to vaccines as the plausible primary cause of autism. Thankfully, the HHS has now launched a comprehensive assessment on the cause of autism, including an investigation of plausible biological mechanisms. So the question you have to ask yourself is, where is the safety testing? Kids are given I believe right now, they're given 78 shots from birth, the moment you're born, all the way until you're just about 18 years old. 78 different shots. That's a lot. Very much a lot of shots. So I went online and I said, okay, let me look at this. Because now we're getting even Dr. Mark Siegel of Fox News, the medical analyst they have there. And he says there's no scientific evidence that vaccines cause autism. Okay. All right. Okay. Now, Big Pharma doesn't like this, by the way. They don't like to hear this because this is where they peddle all this crap, by the way. So I looked up all this stuff. I said, okay, the minute a child's born, what do they get? They get a vitamin K shot and they get a hepatitis B shot. Now, why would an infant who's minutes old be getting a hepatitis B shot? Obviously, you would know prior to this if the mother is hepatitis B positive. Why would they need a vaccine for this? It's a sexually transmitted disease, folks. So again, they don't make any sense. And again, most of these shots are things that have already been rooted out of society. But this is what you've been indoctrinated to. That's why these wellness visits where the kids go in, every time they go in, for their little checkups every couple months, child that's completely healthy has to get all these shots. And they're loaded with these adjuvants. They're loaded with things like thimerosal, which again, RFK Jr. is working on pushing to take out of these shots, because again, it's aluminum. It has no business being in the human body at all. It's a neurotoxin. Get a load of that. Neurotoxin, autism, neurological disorder. Interesting, isn't it? It's almost like the two are connected. Anyways, I digress. So again, when did this hepatitis B shot come out? 1981. All right. So where's the safety testing? And again, I looked up all these shots. I typed it in and said, when is the last time the childhood hepatitis B shot was tested? And it gave me this, and again, I used AI so I can get any type of information they could possibly scrape off the internet. And it kept bringing me the same thing. Well, the CDC test for any type of shot prior to releasing it. And it gives me the same thing for every one of these shots, by the way. And I said, okay, that's not good. So are you telling me since then there's been no safety testing for these shots? And again, they change formulas over time, obviously. Nothing's updated. I couldn't find any research topic on this whatsoever. Any research data, no testing, no summary, no analysts, nothing. There's nothing there for these shots. Same thing with the DTaP, the diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis shot. DTaP came out in 1991, given multiple times, nothing on it. Same nonsense. Oh, every time it's licensed, go through safety testing. Any formula updates are tested again. I go, okay. When's the last time this has been updated? Nothing. I can't find anything on this. HIB in 1985, same thing. Inactivated poliovirus, 1955. Pneumococcal, let's see this. Pneumococcal pneumonia, 2010. Rotavirus, 2006. Measles, mumps, and rubella shot, 1971. Updated last in 2018. I said, okay. So I searched ad nauseum for, 2018 update on this shot. And by the way, this is one of the great topics of the documentary Vaxxed, which I saw back in, I believe, 2016, I think is when it came out. And this was the shot they said, okay, when you give your kids the MMR shot, when they're very young, by the way, this is when most parents notice a change in their child. This is when they notice, if you will, the lights go out, if you will. And again, it gives me no pleasure to tell you this, but this is what they're talking about. This is what they're saying in the documentary. And they were saying this shot contains a lot of these adjuvants that are, again, toxic. And when this happens, this is when parents notice this change in the child's behavior. And their condition grows after that. So, but I found nothing for this. So they changed the formula in 2018. Not a research paper. I found nothing because, again, the FDA, this is what they say. After every one of these shots, they said, where's the last shot summary for any of these? And it says they conduct post-licensure surveillance through systems like VAERS. And I said, you got to be kidding me. You've actually got to be kidding me on this. This is their only means of safety testing, is looking at the Vaccine Adverse Effects Report Survey? Really? Now, if they're using VAERS, which again is a lawful document, by the way, if they're using VAERS, then why has the COVID-19 shot not been taken out? Why is it still in circulation? There's 2.6 million people on that list, on the VAERS report. Again, I've read you the uptick in health ailments as a result of the COVID shot, right? Myocarditis up 2,800% increase. Turbo cancers, any way you look at it. Again, depending on which type of cancer, of course, but 300 to 900%, depending on the type of cancer. Infertility for both sexes up 500%. Miscarriages, 300% increase. Neurological disorders, Alzheimer's, stroke, muscular dystrophy, peripheral neuropathy, up 1,000%. Again, this is all attributed to the shot. Demyelinating disorders like central nervous system disorders, multiple sclerosis, up 1,000% after taking the shot. Multiple sclerosis on its own was up 600%. Guillain-Barré syndrome, up 500%. You remember Justin Bieber? He couldn't move the side of his face after he took the shot? Yeah, that's what this is. Pulmonary embolisms, up 400%. Blood clots, right, in the pulmonary vein of the lungs. Not a good thing. I don't think we can argue that. And HIV, up 500% because your body's immune system weakens after taking the COVID shots. Need I say any more? If they're just using the VAERS site and saying, okay, we're going to assess this based on you providing information that you've been injured by this, that's your safety testing? Again, it blows my mind. There's no safety testing in the last 30, 35 years in these shots. And again, what happened in 1986, we can go back in time. This is one of the faults of Ronald Reagan, and this is one of the things I would say he was very negligent on. But they passed the Childhood Vaccine Immunity Act of 1986, and it basically stated in there that you cannot go in and sue these big pharma vaccine manufacturers. And the idea was you didn't want them to go in and sue them because there was a fear that if vaccines went away, there would be a spike, an uptick, and again, the transmission of these viruses and what have you. That obviously didn't happen, though. That wouldn't happen in society today. You have to understand something. Back when all this was happening with polio and this and that, all these things were happening because of a lack of sanitation. You have to understand something. Sanitation is massive in our society today. And again, without the cleaning of water, right? Sanitizing water, your hands, your body, all these things. And again, you're working in close, crowded conditions, which again, early part of the century, that was, you had 10 people living in one room. All these factors contribute to, obviously, the uptick of various diseases. It's easily transmittable. But again, as time went on, as sanitation improved, right around that time when sanitation's really making its way through, again, removal of, when you go to the bathroom, septic tank systems, proper sewer treatment, treating the water, proper hand sanitation, right? We're cleaning ourselves better now. At the same time, all this is starting to happen and come into fruition. They come in and start saying, well, we need to start giving these vaccines. If we don't give these vaccines, you're going to get sick. You're all going to get polio, paralysis. You're going to get this, Hep B, all this nonsense. And so, again, as the sanitation in this country improves, we're also seeing the diminishing of all these viruses. Now, again, measles is not a deadly condition. It's, you don't want to get it, of course. But it's not a deadly condition by and large. I mean, again, you can look at something like the flu. I think we all can agree the flu itself, you got to tell you wouldn't be totally freaked out. Still, we have 60,000 people each year dying of the flu. But are we going to argue that because if you don't get a flu shot, you're going to get the flu and die? I mean, I get it. It really doesn't make any sense. These shots that we're vaccinating people for are by and large not deadly, and they're not really epidemics in our societies. People are again attributing that, well, because we vaccinate more. How many adults go and get these shots? You tell me you have lifelong immunity once you get one of these shots? Most people today, by the way, have zero immunity of all these shots, of which, of course, we vaccinate children for. So, I mean, the two things don't add up. Sanitation is key. It just is. The way we handle our food now, the way we package our food now, the way we refrigerate, right? Things of that. All these things factor into obviously, the decreasing of getting these types of ailments. Which, again, I'm not saying anyone should want to get polio or want to get, diphtheria or pneumococcal pneumonia or anything like that. But what I'm saying to you is the reason it's not as prevalent is not because of vaccines. It's because of sanitation. And again, we have pharmaceutical drugs that can obviously prevent the risk. Obviously, again, if you're taking proper supplements, boosting your immune system on your own, you're not as likely to get these as well. Because you're taking care of your body. You're keeping a strong immune system. So I wanted to read all of this to you because now the conversation's coming out. Now people are actually coming out and saying it, that there is possibly a link between vaccines and contributing to autism. It's not taboo to say. Before, people were shot down. You're a kook. You don't know what you're talking about. You're making things up. Right? That's what happened to Andrew Wakefield in that documentary of Vaxxed. I think he lost his license, his medical license, as a result of it. And he didn't even say, don't vaccinate your kids. He said, listen, this is the shot that they're figuring out where, again, is a big problem. It's contributing to this condition. This is what and by the way, he brought up research. He had a CDC whistleblower that gave him the actual data. The other data was destroyed, I believe is what they said in the documentary. And he said, hey, listen, just give the shots separately and space them out. He didn't even argue. He wasn't even anti-vax. Again, that's what they were accusing him of. Now, again, I think if you go look at all the, what's inside all these shots and these vials, you would probably not want to put them in your body. Formaldehyde, polysorbate 80, mercury, aluminum, aborted fetal cell tissue. Why would you put this in your child's body? It's mind-boggling in and of itself. But again, go look at it. Don't take my word for it. Go look at what they put in these vaccines. And it will blow your mind, I think, if you actually look at it. And again, if they're safe and effective, where's the research for it? I'm open to it. Where's the research for it? It says the latest CDC data shows that for children aged 8 years old, born in 2014, I think this is probably the last time they looked at this, about 1 in 31 were identified with autism spectrum disorder. Excuse me. In 2000, about 1 in 50 were diagnosed with autism as well. So look at the contrast. As time goes on, we're seeing this become more and more prevalent. What's changing? Now, one could argue diet is a factor, maybe, in some aspects. But every year, a little bit more, a couple more vaccines in it, a couple more doses. Remember, you have your infant when they're born, no more than 10 pounds tops, probably, I'd say. And you're pumping in mercury into their bodies the moment they're born. 2 months later, you're giving them 4 more shots. This is a lot, folks. Back in the day, I think it was, you got a couple shots, depending on what decade you were born in. Again, I don't remember getting this many shots. Well, again, it wasn't that way when I was growing up, of course, but what they've done, they've totally changed this vaccine schedule. And they're not testing these vaccines. And they made it so you can't sue these people if they're causing these conditions. You can go to civil court, I believe, for them and get money, but not against them. So they found this, loophole to keep doing this, to, I guess, have carte blanche to do whatever the hell they want and produce whatever the hell they want. Look no further than the COVID shot. Look how it was passed. They put it out as emergency use authorization. And they had the same panel come in and say, yep, 6-month-old can take this. Really? There's no safety testing at all. But they deemed it so, and they licensed them. I don't even know today if it's off of the EUA. It might still be that. Again, I have no idea. But again, you can look this up. There's no safety testing for these COVID shots. Yeah. Again, all the animals died in the study trial. You can look that up too if you don't believe me. All these things are true. And again, you can't get away with having 2.6 million, as the last time I looked, people on this VAERS list, again, which is a legal document. It can't just be anybody coming in and saying, hey, you know what, I think it was the COVID shot. There actually has to be a legal document where, they're signing off on this, that, yes, as a result of me taking the shot, this changed right afterwards in me. So again, there's an actual link from the vaccine, taking the vaccine, to obviously being sick or injured from this. So again, I always tell you, do your own research. If you don't believe me, go look it up. But there's sites coming out saying there is no link. There's sites coming out saying there is a link. What's the actual data tell us? When's the last time they did this safety testing? And if there is a safety testing, what's the size of the population they vaccinated? How long were they monitored for? We should know all this. You as a parent should know all this. And again, the reason I tell you this, because I want you to be informed. Again, I don't claim to know everything, but again, I do the research. This is what I found over years and years of looking at this. Again, they're worried that vaccine confidence, says right here in the article, is eroding, despite the fact that the vast majority of our vaccines have been around a long time and are crucial tools in the fight against vaccine-preventable disease and deaths from associated pathogens. Okay, so where's the data? Show it to me. I'm open to it. Where's the data? Have the CDC show us the actual data for this. Because something is causing this. It can't be nothing. I mean, we can argue chemtrails in the sky are not a good thing. I don't know if that's causing autism in children. I know. We can also talk about glyphosate in the food, which causes cancer. I don't know if that's it either. But we do know that as of, the mid-1990s, you're starting to see this uptick in the number of young people being attributed now with this autism spectrum disorder that we see now. It's becoming more and more prevalent. And it is a national emergency, by the way. Should be. We should be getting to the bottom of this. So I'm interested to see what this community assessment will look like when RFK Jr. and Jay Bhattacharya actually get to work on this and what they actually find. But again, you're putting a neurotoxin in the vaccine, folks, right? It's so, a neurotoxin destroys the neurons. What is autism? It's a neurological disorder in the brain. Because again, what happens to that aluminum when you inject it in the body, into the bloodstream, which again, it does not belong at all in any capacity. Now they'll come out and say, well, a little bit of thimerosal, a little bit of mercury, a little bit of aluminum. It's okay in really tiny doses. No, it's not. It's not okay in any doses. And anyone who's telling you that is lying to you. And they try to come off with, well, a little bit here. The trade-off's much better, though. Because you don't want to get polio. You don't want to get hepatitis B. You don't want to get diphtheria or measles or mumps. Okay, I'm not saying I want to get any of that. But the trade-off is you pump me up with heavy metals? I don't understand that aspect of it. And again, where's the testing that shows that, yes, when confronted with this virus, which again, we come in contact with viruses, like 60 to 70 different viruses every single day, folks, just so you're clear on all this. Anytime you leave your house, you're exposing yourself to all these things in nature and what have you. Again, last I checked, I don't see adults coming down with polio out of nowhere. Again, just thought I'd bring that up to you. So again, it's something to think about. It's interesting to see where this will go. And again, I hope RFK Jr., Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, again, these were guys who were vocal against the COVID shots and again, what was happening during COVID. And again, I hope they get to the bottom of this and I hope they bring us some actual credible research. And again, if there are people in the CDC, the FDA that are lying about this, again, the FDA is the ones that issue the licensures. If they are lying about this, people need to go to jail for this. Because this would be a massive, massive scandal, especially in the medical industry. And again, the people that produce this. How could you produce a product where you have no idea if it's safe or effective for a small child? It's very, very disturbing. I think you all would agree on that one. All right, moving on. I want to talk about Trump's 28-point peace plan. And we talked a little bit about this the other day. But I want to hone in on some things that, again, I find are troubling now that the actual document has been published. This is an Axios. There's many things in this, by the way, that are troubling on so many fronts. And before I break down the 28-point plan, I want to briefly mention this Ukrainian corruption scandal of 2025 where some $100 million was actually embezzled by several bad actors in the state-owned nuclear energy company. And I think it's pronounced Angerotium. I don't even know how to say it. It's Ukrainian. I can't say it. Well, it's a made-up name anyways. Angerotium, I believe is how you say it. I don't know. Doesn't matter to me. The hell with them. This includes various oligarchic factions, by the way, but even top Ukrainian ministers, associates, and, of course, Zelensky's business partners like Timur Minduk and Alexander Sukerman, both of whom have, been put under sanctions by Zelensky. But get this. Both have now actually fled to Israel, where they're both citizens, I'm told. Yeah, these are some of the top oligarchs in the country fleeing to Israel to avoid persecution. Former Energy Minister Herman Halushchenko and Justice Minister Svetlana Gurnuchuk, I believe is how you say her name, have both resigned in disgrace. Again, this is the government coming down on this whole thing. This is the influence that has kept the war machine going, by the way. These people. Giving Ukraine, among one of the most corrupt elements, of course. Never forget, though, that people get rich off war. And in the United States alone, we've spent somewhere it's estimated between $183.3 billion. Anywhere over to $300 billion is the estimates I've seen. It's been ranging. I think the $183 billion is on the low end. And for what? So people can get rich, of course. So they can have the illusion that they're weakening the state of Russia. That's what it comes down to. Again, I just want to say, in my own perspective, this war will end only when a peace treaty will be signed. Of course, when the West pulls all of its resources out, largely Western money, of course. Again, but that's a hard truth. But it's a fact. The only thing keeping this war going, again, is the West proxy war ambitions to weaken Russia. That's the only thing it comes down to. Again, the West is moving away now from previous dubious positions it once held that Ukraine could actually win this conflict. Again, all baseless. Absolutely all baseless. Again, nobody even knows who drafted this peace plan itself. Some say it's Rubio. Some say it's Steve Witkoff. Jared Kushner? Really? Who could these people possibly be? Again, why are people saying this? I think Keith Kellogg gave us a good insight on all this. But listen, this is what he said on Sunday on Fox News. Take a listen.
We have to put in supporting documents, probably an annex. That would be security guarantees. And I talked to Jared Kushner just recently, and I think we'll get those on the plan. But it's like a framework. There are 28 positions on there that if you read them, it really does count what words are said in this, because words do matter. When you look at what Santiano said in the past, those who forget history are condemned to repeat it. We don't want history to repeat itself. We don't want the Budapest Memorandum to come back. We don't want the Minsk 1 or 2 to come back. It's the United States that's going to guarantee part of this.
Okay. So there was the special envoy to Ukraine and Russia. This is the same guy that's been telling you, the Ukrainians are doing great. Okay, Keith, go sit down somewhere before you hurt yourself. Again, void of all reality. No, that's simply not true. But it's interesting. He said he spoke with Jared Kushner. What the hell does Jared Kushner have to do with what's happening in Russia and Ukraine? And he's somehow involved in what's going on with the reconstruction of Gaza and the Middle East, too. So odd stuff happening here, of course. But again, many believe, this is going to crash and burn like the Israel-Gaza ceasefire that we saw for several reasons. Let me share some with you. I'm going to go through just a couple of them. I'm not going to go through all 28, of course. But let's start off things with number 5. Where are we with number 5 here? Number 5 says Ukraine will receive reliable security guarantees. It says here that the United States and its NATO allies would treat an attack on Ukraine as an attack on the entire transatlantic community. Again, this just reeks of NATO. So they're essentially saying Ukraine will be a de facto member of NATO. Vladimir Putin's not going to agree to that. The whole reason he's there, too, is because Zelensky kept saying, we're going to join NATO, we're going to join NATO. He says, no, you're not going to join NATO. So, again, ridiculous. But then it goes down in point number 8, and it says, NATO agrees not to station troops in Ukraine. Well, wait a minute. I mean, they don't necessarily have to be having troops in Ukraine. But anything that you deem as a, offshoot or an act of aggression, we just act as if it's been an attack on one of us. That's what they tried to do in Poland recently with the whole drone strike. Oh, they have drones going over Poland. Then, of course, they found out that it was probably Ukrainians that took the drones that had, crashed in Ukraine. These are Russian drones, and they sent them over Polish airspace. So it's so easy to, again, institute a false flag on this and say, hey, look, Russia attacked us. Look at this. So it's been an attack on all of you now. NATO, come check us out. Come help us out. They don't need to station troops there. They haven't had to do with that the entire war that we know of. So again, I can't see Putin agreeing to any of those conditions, by the way. Point number 6. The size of the Ukrainian armed forces will be limited to 600,000 personnel. It says Ukrainian's army is currently 800 to 850 personnel. Had only around 250,000 before the war started. I don't know how they can tell a sovereign nation how many troops they can have in their military personnel. I'm not sure why the number is 600,000, though. I don't understand why they're increasing it by almost 3 times what it was when the conflict began. Again, I don't know if Putin will go along with that. Point number 8. I just told you this. NATO agrees not to station troops in Ukraine. There should be have nothing to do with this. The treaty should say, Ukraine will never join NATO. End of story. But now you have NATO countries, including France and the UK, which have been working on a separate proposal, by the way, that would include a small number of European troops on Ukrainian soil after the war. Now, this plan obviously appears to disregard that, but is Putin going to go along with this? Of course not. He's not going to allow French and United Kingdom troops to be in Ukraine. It's just not going to happen. Again, he knows what's going on. He knows all this. Look at this. I got to play this one for you, too. This is the president of the EU, Ursula von der Leyen. I don't understand this woman at all. She's been horrible for Germany's military. She's been horrible for the EU. Probably a nice woman, but she's totally off on all this. Absolutely, totally, 100% off on all this. This is just a couple of proposals she's pushing forward. This is taken from, again, Judge Andy Napolitano's podcast. Here she is in all of her glory. Ursula von der Leyen, folks.
Any credible and sustainable peace plan should first and foremost stop the killing and end the war while not sowing the seeds for future conflict. We have agreed on the main elements necessary for a just and lasting peace and Ukraine's sovereignty. And let me highlight 3 of them. First, borders cannot be changed by force. Second, as a sovereign nation, there cannot be limitations on Ukraine's armed forces that would leave the country vulnerable to future attack and thereby also undermining European security. Third, the centrality of the European Union in securing peace for Ukraine must be fully reflected. Ukraine must have the freedom and sovereign right to choose its own destiny. They have chosen a European destiny. It starts with the country's reconstruction, its integration into our single market and our defense industrial base, and ultimately joining our union.
Okay. Well, she said a lot there. Joining their union. Again, is Russia going to allow Ukraine to team up with the West? I mean, this is asinine to even think that they would allow this. But again, what the United States is pushing out, what Europe wants are two totally separate things, it seems like at this point. So we'll have to see what a final peace proposal will be. Again, I think this is maybe a stepping stone towards peace prosperity. But again, I can't see Russia agreeing to really any of this. This is ridiculousness. Oh, by the way, number 12. Let's go to number 12 here. This is another one that'll make you just go, what the hell's going on here? Number 12 says a powerful global package of measures to rebuild Ukraine, including, but not limited to, the creation of a Ukrainian development fund to invest in fast-growing industries, including technology, data centers, and artificial intelligence. There you go. AI will rule the world, won't it, folks? Says the United States will cooperate with Ukraine to jointly rebuild, develop, modernize, and operate Ukraine's gas infrastructure, including pipelines and storage facilities. So we're going to get rich off this. This is what the United States is going to do. We'll rebuild for you. We'll do. Who's going to front this check for them? Where are they going to get this money from? Says there are joint efforts to rehabilitate war-affected areas for restoration, reconstruction, and modernization of cities and residential areas. Infrastructure development, extraction of minerals and natural resources. That's what we want. Don't we? We want that, right? That's one of the things Trump wanted to get from Zelensky. He had him sign off on that. The sad thing is most of it's in the eastern areas of Ukraine, which Russia now controls. World Bank will develop a special financing package to accelerate these efforts. Oh, I'm sure. I mean, it's so asinine, you can't even make this stuff up. But here's the kicker on this. You scroll down to point number 14, and they're referring to Russia's frozen funds. It says frozen funds will be used as follows. $100 billion in frozen Russian assets will be invested into U.S.-led efforts to rebuild and invest in Ukraine. Now, I want you to stop and think about this for a second. Russia will not allow us to take their assets to be spent on Ukraine or given as some type of war reparation. Remember Zelensky came out with that? Said, we will get war reparations for this as well. Not going to happen. Absolutely not going to ever happen. Unbelievable. By the way, it says here that the United States will receive 50% of the profits from this venture. So they're going to take half of this money that they're going to invest now. That's the Russians. And we're going to get profits from this? Europe will add another $100 billion to increase the amount of investment available for Ukraine's reconstruction. I mean, this is, again, it's just ridiculous. This is dead on arrival, I would have to say. I can't see Putin even flirting with the fact that he would accept this. It's just ridiculous. The remainder of the frozen Russian funds will be invested in a separate U.S.-Russian investment vehicle that will implement joint projects in specialized areas. Again, I'm sorry to laugh at this. This is pathetic, though. This is not going to work. Never going to happen. Never. Never, ever. Let's go down to point 21, though. This one's important, too. It says here territories. And it's talking about Crimea, obviously, which is in the Black Sea, where the Russian fleet is stationed and has been stationed for hundreds of years. Luhansk, Donetsk, which make up the Donbass region, will be recognized as de facto Russian, including by the United States. First of all, it's not going to be de facto Russian. It is Russian. It's going to be a part of Russia. But then it goes on to say the other two oblasts, Kherson and Zaporizhia, will be frozen along a line of contact, which means de facto recognition along the line of contact. It says Russia will relinquish other agreed territories it controls outside of these 5 oblasts. And again, I'm just going to stop you there. No. Russia's going to take those areas. You will recognize those areas as Russia. Otherwise, Russia's going to continue on this war. They'll keep taking more and more and more. And that's how it'll go. They're going to say, okay, you're not going to recognize that this is Russia now? Okay, we'll continue on. That's how it'll work out. Again, de facto, what? Like Zelensky, the de facto president of Ukraine? That's how we're going to recognize it? I don't think so. Russia will keep at it, and it will continue to control this land. Go down to point 28, if anyone's ever going to look at this. But here's 28. Let's look at this part. It says, once all parties agree to this memorandum, The ceasefire will take effect immediately after both sides retreat to agreed points to begin implementation of the agreement. Oh, God. Okay. All right. Here's the problem with this. The whole thing, the reason why Alaska failed was because this is what we proposed to them. We said, let's get a ceasefire going. Let's do this. They don't want a ceasefire. Why would they want a ceasefire is never held, by and large. Just go look at what's happening between Israel and Gaza, Israel, Lebanon, Israel, Syria. Look at what's going to happen between Israel and Iran very soon. These ceasefires don't last, folks. Vladimir Putin understands this. He knows any time in a ceasefire, the other side will rearm, re-up themselves, mobilize more troops, train more troops, get more weaponry, whatever you name it. And they will eventually attack again. That's the way it is. That's what will happen. He's not going to agree. He wants a peace proposal, a peace treaty, the ending of this war with the provisions that they provide. They are not going to entertain this. It's just, again, I'm looking at all this. What in here? What in here is he going to agree to? And it says here, this agreement will be a legally binding, and it says its implementation will be monitored and guaranteed by a peace council headed by President Donald J. Trump. Sanctions will be imposed for any violation. Really? You're telling me Vladimir Putin is going to have a peace council inside Ukraine, I guess? It's going to be headed by Donald Trump? Again, so if anything happens under the sun, they can put on Russia. We're going to impose sanctions on you for violating it. We're going to now attack you because that's what this peace proposal, ceasefire proposal, I guess is what it is, states. We can now attack you. We're going to lord over you. We're going to look into you. We're going to monitor you. Everything you do, we're going to monitor you. Again, I don't think Russia wants to be looked after by the United States or any type of peace council. Look no further than the Middle East, where people are getting killed and slaughtered every day still in Gaza. Nothing's done about it. There is no peace in a ceasefire. Here's my scenario. Again, I'm not going to read all this to you. One important point, though, I think, in here, though, is Ukraine will hold elections in 100 days, it says. They need to. They don't have a president. Zelensky's de facto president. He suspended them under martial law to keep this war going on, where he acts as the leader of the nation. Not making people happy, folks. I can tell you that much. But it doesn't seem like the government is going to go along with this in Ukraine. And again, I don't think the Russian government will either. Again, no way Russia accepts this plan. Again, as I presented it to you, maybe a few provisions here and there Russia can build off of, but largely it supports and bolsters up Ukraine, not Russia. And again, Russia's the victor in this conflict. Let's understand that. Again, we can't forget what started this conflict back in the Maidan Revolution in 2014, when Viktor Yanukovych was strategically removed by us, the United States. And of course, Minsk failed. Brought to you by Obama, Biden, the point man, of course, or I guess the so-called point man for Ukraine, and Victoria Nuland, that piece of wonderful joy. Oh, yeah. So, my synopsis, my estimation, Russia's not going to agree to this. They will not sign this, and again, this fighting will continue on. That's the way I see it with this. Again, like I said, maybe a couple positions they can build off of, but again, it's going to be Russia that clearly determines what these terms of agreement are. Again, you can't have ceasefire in a peace proposal, because all it says is we're pausing this conflict. Russia doesn't want that. They want an end to this. They want to stop it. They want the land they've acquired, and that's how it'll be. Just telling you the truth, folks. That's just how it's going to be. All right, moving on. New York Post. This one's interesting to me. I saw this morning. I don't know what to really make of it, and I don't have a lot of time to go into all this, but it hit social media pretty hard this morning. It says here, Candace Owens roasted for claiming the Macrons of France, hired an assassin squad to kill her. So again, I don't know what to make of all this. Again, I'm just learning about this, but it starts off, of course, conspiracy theorist Candace Owens is being ridiculed after an alleged in a crazy series of social media posts that the first couple of France have actually paid an assassination squad to kill her and enlisted Israel to help do the dirty deed. Okay, so I guess she's accusing France of trying to carry out this hit on her. Do I think it's true? I have no idea, to be honest with you. Now, here's what she said, though, early this morning. Again, I'm just going by what she's telling us. I have no way to prove or disprove what she's telling us. Only she can, or the government. But she says, our show will be off air this week. As an update, both the White House and our counterterrorism agencies have confirmed receipt of what I reported publicly. And she goes on to say, Emmanuel Macron attempted to organize my assassination per a source close to the first couple. Also, I will again state that the French legionaries were involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination, but they did not act alone. For all of you who doubted my claims, you can now look to the President of the United States and our intelligence communities to issue statements to confirm or whether I am telling the truth. So that's what she wrote via X. Again, I have no idea if this is true or not. I don't know if the person telling her this was telling the truth, but she's saying that, again, this is going to go up to the top. It's going to go up to the top and see exactly what's going on here. Again, I can't confirm nor deny that this is true. Obviously, she's been very controversial to many people as of late. But, I mean, people are coming out and say, she's crazy. Well, okay. Well, let's see it. Let's see what's actually... Now, she got in this feud, of course, between Macron and Brigitte Macron, asserting that she's a dude. So, obviously, there's some bad blood between them. But, again, she's usually someone that comes to the table with some evidence. So, again, I'm here to entertain any of those facts that she wants to bring up. But, again, I have no way to confirm nor deny that she was actually threatened, of course. But, the story primarily goes, well, she's a conspiracy theorist. She said this, she said that. Who the hell cares? I don't care what she says about any of this. What the hell do I care? Did someone threaten her life? That's what I'm concerned about. And why did they threaten her life? That's what I want to know, if it is true. So we'll see how that builds as the time comes. And if anything produces outside of that. All right, one more thing before we end today's show. We got a couple minutes. Final segment of the program. This is in Just the News. Says the Pentagon on Monday announced an investigation into Arizona Senator Mark Kelly's related him to a handful of fellow Democrats participating in a video urging troops to defy illegal orders. I talked to you about this on Friday, I believe. And now the Defense Department on X cited a federal law that allows retired service members to be recalled to active duty on orders of the Defense Security for possible court-martial or other measures. This is through the Associated Press. And, of course, Kelly, as we know, was a U.S. Navy fighter pilot before becoming an astronaut and retired as the rank of captain. So now the Department of War has received serious allegations of this misconduct from Senator Mark Kelly in that video. Now, what they're saying is, and again, I mentioned this as well. I told you, hey, I don't know if the Uniform Code of Military Justice is going to take effect to the 6 people, 5 of whom were former military officials. But it seems like Mark Kelly, having retired as rank of captain, might fall under 10 U.S.C. Code 688 and other applicable regulations. And a thorough review of these allegations have been initiated to determine further actions, which may recall to active duty, of course, for a court-martialing procedure or administrative measures. And they're looking into that. So, what did the Department of War actually state? He said that 18 U.S.C. Code 2387 prohibit actions intended to interfere with the loyalty, morale, or good order and discipline of the armed forces. Any violations will be addressed through appropriate legal channels. Now, of course, you recall in the video, Kelly specifically told the troops, you can refuse illegal orders. And other lawmakers told the troops, you need to stand up for our laws, our Constitution. You all remember this. So it'll be interesting to see What happens to Kelly on this? If he did break the law, it'll probably fall under what the UCMJ will determine. And they obviously say that all service members are reminded that they have a legal obligation under the UCMJ to obey lawful orders, and that orders are presumed to be lawful. Now, again, you're seeing them on various websites. It should be a news organization, I should say. But you had Alyssa Slotkin, or Elise Slotkin, whatever her name, I don't care. She's from Michigan now. She's asked, okay, well, you said President Trump was pitting the military against Americans. Can you provide us with an unlawful order he's given? And of course, she couldn't do it. So again, I told you to see you on Friday. I go, well, what are they talking about? What are they alluding to in this video? That President Trump has committed an unlawful act to be given to our United States military of any capacity. What has he done that's illegal? And none of them can tell us what it is. So I told you on Friday it was, distasteful to come out like that and say these things. Again, I'm all for freedom of speech, but remember, they are service members. And a service member's personal philosophy does not justify or excuse the disobedience of an otherwise lawful order. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to them, and if anything does come about this, we'll keep an eye on it, of course. But again, I think the one that may get some reprimanding, if anything, would probably be Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. But again, only time will tell if that'll actually happen. I don't think anything will happen. Does anything ever happen to these people when they do things like this? Of course not. So it's an interesting case of, is it freedom of speech? As service members, are they violating their code of conduct in the UCMJ? Only time will tell, folks. And again, I told you Friday that's what it'll likely fall under if any wrongdoing came from what they had said in that video they posted. Folks, thank you again for being here. I appreciate you so much. Share the show with some friends. Like the show. Follow the show. And again, I'll see you here tomorrow on the next Marco Geray Show for you, as always. Have a great rest of your day. Be good. Stay busy. God bless.